I like the gamification of learning, and I kind of view this. Somebody turned me on to this advent of code. I think I've heard about it at a couple contests like this before. And normally I'm too lazy, but I was shamed into it by the people I work with. So now I'm playing with it, well, at least on day one. And the idea is advent of code is really 25 days of coding problems that are kind of algorithmic. You can problem solving, right? It's kind of a coding dojo where you get a daily exercise, and the daily exercise is 2 parts. You have a first part that's pretty straightforward, I guess, and then the second one's more complicated, blew me away for a couple hours. And with a few hours work, you can solve those problems, hopefully. And the nice thing is they're not language specific. It's not super complicated. Well, I only did day 1, so I can't tell you. And the only thing that matters is the results, right? And you can use any language you want. I'm on a Flutter Dart team right now, so I actually am trying to be better at Dart with it. And I have people I know that we've kind of been banging this around with a little bit in Python, Dart, Haskell, Rust, and C#. And I think there's like 10 people, and we're using 5 different languages. So basically, like I said, it's a gamification. You can, you know what, let me show you the website. So this is the website, super nerd site, right? Basically, you sign up, and then, so like this is the homepage. It looks pretty darn close. You click on the year you're in after you've signed up, and you know what, let me make this bigger. And basically, every day a different hyperlink shows up for that day. Right, so 25 days, by the end you'll have 25, and there'll be a picture painted based on the problems you solved. So in this case, it's kind of weird, right? It's super minimalistic site. Basically, you sign up, then you're like, man, what's the problem we're doing? And at midnight every day, Eastern time, a new problem appears, and you can always go back. You can click these other guys and try and solve them, right? And so I'm going to show you real quick. The problem for this is basically they just give you a problem. They tell you what the algorithm kind of is you're supposed to do, what the results are. They provide an example set of data, and then they describe what the answer should be and why you got the answer. And then you enter your answer when you've solved it. And when you solve it, part 2 shows up with a problem that looks the same, but it's not. And then you solve that. And so let me go over it's actually, like I said, you can use any language you want. And basically, there is an input data set. Let me show you. There's an input data set that, where did I put that? Oh yeah. So I'm just going to show you mine here. So there's an input data set that comes for every problem, and in this case, it actually is the same data set for problem 1 and problem 2. It just solved it differently or more complex. And everybody's data set is different. It's tied to your session ID, so you and your friends probably will come up with different answers because the data sets will get mixed up and come up with different answers. I just think that's really cool, and the answer is just a field. So you go to Advent of Code, which I showed you a minute ago, and basically it's bound to a session ID. So when you do your submission, you basically append when you go get your data set, you make sure that your data set's in your session. So you could do it in a browser. A lot of people do it in code, right? So every day you go and get the next day's data set, right? So in this case, the easiest way to do that is you just pull up the Advent Code web page, and then you do the browser inspector, and then you go down there and you say, hey, I'm looking at the browser inspector. Here's my network traffic. Here's my headers, and here's my session ID. You take that string, you put it in your app, or you put it in your curl, and you're good to go, right? Because you might be using curl to pull that down. Or in my case, I'm using Dart. And why am I using Dart? Because I picked up somebody's starter project. People that have done this for a few years, they know they're going to do 25 days of code, and they want a bunch of utilities around, and they want a bunch of helpers, and then every day they're just going to generate a new file to play with, right? And pull down the new input. So there are a bunch of starter projects out here. I'm on Dart, so I'm using this, guys. This one was pretty cool. You can see it here. And what I did is I just created a branch, right? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You clone this thing, or a lot of them are like this. You run a generator, and it'll generate, for every day, it'll generate a placeholder file in the language of your choice, and it'll pull down the inputs. It's cool. Or you can just do it manually. And I think a lot of people do it manually in the beginning, and then that probably gets tiring after a few days. So what else was I going to talk about? Oh, let's see. So I showed you this a minute ago, right? Advent of Code 2023. You click on that, and you'll see things down in the bottom. And in the bottom, any of them that don't have a time, you probably can click on, unless you can't go back. I don't know, because I'm only on day 1 still. You click on that. It'll show you the puzzle that I showed you before, which is this thing, right? I kind of showed you before. That's got the problem definition, the sample data, and the sample answer. And then it's got 2 parts once you solve the first one. And you can see how long it is till day 2, and you can see how many of the 2 problems you solved in day 1. And that's it, man. This thing is cool. If you are looking for a coding, like a dojo or kind of a kata thing where you're going to learn how to code or solve some problems in the language of your choice, most of the people I know are picking a language they're not crazy familiar in or they need to get better at. Is there anything else? Retrieving the sample. Yeah, you just put the session ID on there. So that's that. I hope that's useful. And this is a cool idea, right? Everybody's needs to be about improving their craft. You got to get better at it. We all want to make more money, and we want to work on more interesting problems. Have a great day.